Alrighty, guys. So, completely unplanned, unscheduled live stream. But nevertheless, we'll just jump in and see who joins us, right? So, I think there's already one person on board. I'm going to give this a few minutes because it's not pre-announced or anything, so it will show up in people's feed, and yeah, we'll give it a go. Yeah, okay, already got 5 people on. That's cool. Hey, Ryan, how are you? Hope you're okay. Always curious to hear where you guys are from. And I see a lot of people. I see names that I recognize, which is kind of cool. So yeah, guys, while we wait for you to jump on board here, what I want to talk to you guys about today is schools. So universities, colleges, studying 3D in high school, doing online classes, following YouTube videos, basically anything and everything you can do to get the knowledge to become a 3D artist, right? So that's what I want to talk about. And I don't necessarily want to talk about it in generally. What I would like to do is talk to you guys about your experiences, your questions on whether you should go to college, whether you enjoyed the college you went to, whether it answered all your questions and that kind of stuff. Okay. So yeah, like I said, I'll give it a few more minutes because this is a completely unscheduled session. I didn't pre-announce it or anything. So we'll give it a minute and have some people, give them time to jump on board. That said, yeah, let's see. Where are you guys from? I know there are some people from India here. Pretty sure of that. And yeah, let me know. Hey there. Wow, you got a very long name. Cool. Austria. Also, guten Morgen. Or is this, yeah, Mittag, yeah? Let's see, Scotland. That's great. I worked in Scotland for a while. I loved it. Let's see, Pakistan. Never been there, unfortunately. Maybe one day. Malaysia. Have been in Malaysia. I've been in Kuala Lumpur. I've been in Penang. Was really cool. Actually, it was really hot. Let's see. This is kind of a career guidance query. Yeah, I would say so. Let's see. I'm in university first year, just got to college. Basically, I got taught by you, Mike, and learned fast from you. Okay, that's so cool, man. Thanks. Sebastian, yeah, guten Morgen. UK, awesome. Let's see. Where am I from? Well, I'm Canadian originally, but I live currently in the Netherlands. So let's say in between the UK and Germany, for those who don't know, right? Okay, guys. Well, we have 24 people on, which is very cool, especially considering, like I said, this is not pre-announced in any way. So yeah, I'm going to answer all your questions you might have about schools. So colleges, universities, online or in real life, should you go, should you not go, what should you study, and so forth and so on, okay? And I'm going to try to stay on topic, guys. I see some questions about other stuff. I'll try to stay on the topic of the schools, okay? Let's see. Should I opt for an MBA degree or a degree master's in FX or an NCGI? I've already pursued a certification. Should I go for a master's? Okay, well, the thing is this. When you look at schools in general, it's all about what your intended goal is. I mean, you are going to spend a certain amount of time on your education. You're going to spend a certain amount of money on your education, which can be significant, right? And at the end of the day, what you want is to have the knowledge and at some point the skill to work in the industry. Yeah. I assume you guys are getting sound. I see somebody saying, is anyone getting sound? Can you guys hear me okay? I guess so, yeah. Anyway, So whether you should extend your education towards a master's, for example, very much depends on the type of role you want. Let's say you want to work for a very specific company. Now, I don't think that's a good idea per se, but let's say that's the case, yeah? And that company requires you to have a master's. That could be one reason. To get a competitive edge, that will also be a reason. Let's say there's a company where there's a job opening and you got 200 people that want to apply for the job. 199 of them don't have a master's degree and you do. That could give you an advantage. Not necessarily would that mean you would get the job, but in the screening process, a education typically means that there's an assumption there that you do know, your stuff. Keep in mind, though, that when it comes to colleges and universities, there is a huge, huge difference in quality worldwide. And what I hear on a daily basis is people that are super, super disappointed that they spent so much time on an education, spent so much money on an education, and had the feeling that they didn't learn anything, right? So should you do your master's? If you can afford to extend your education, if you have the time to do it, if you have the money to do it, if you have the support system around you to help you do that, I certainly would. Is it necessary and required for you to find a job in the industry? Not necessarily. There are other ways to prove your skill set. There are other ways to prove your knowledge. Okay. So let me know if that answers your question. Let's see. Talon is saying, hi, Mike, just graduated university in the UK studying 3D. And I personally think you do not need to go, as I self-taught almost everything I now know. Well, exactly my point. The thing is, though, not everybody has the ability to become self-taught. Some people need that structured school environment, need the classes, need the homework, and so forth. Other people, not so much. Other people have that discipline and, drive themselves and go online and find the information they need, right? Okay. Yeah. All right. So doing final year project animation degree. So Hectic Plus have a problematic group. Now, that's interesting. Working in a group is obviously a thing that you would do in university and in college and whatnot. And the idea there is for you to be exposed to other artists, because if you work for a studio, you'll be working with other artists as well. Build team spirit, build team mindset, project focus, that kind of stuff. So how do you function in a group? Pretty important. But again, there are other ways to find that out. Online collaborations, working with friends on a game, for example. You can basically do the same thing. Yeah. Let's see. Personally, for me, uni was more of a place to make connections. The connections I made got me my first gig. Well, yes, a very good point. College is basically the foundation of your future network. All the people that graduate will go out, spread out over the world. They will find companies or start companies. And these are people, hopefully, in your network because you had a good interaction with them during your education. And it will kind of give you a leg up compared to those that didn't. I mean, if you've been working in your mom's basement for the last 4 years and you're making cool stuff, but nobody heard of you, nobody's ever seen your work and so forth, it might be tough. Yeah. Let's see here. Okay. Is getting a degree while also getting the debt better for you in the industry rather than maybe, let's say, being a good artist with a good portfolio? Well, the thing is this. When you have a debt, a college debt, it takes a very long time to pay that back, right? And 3D artists, from a financial standpoint, tend to be struggling anyway. So even if you do find that job, right, it's not a high-paying job. Usually you work long hours and many days to make that small amount of money, right? And then you also have to pay off that student loan. That is what? 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, $80,000, right? So I would say if you are in an environment where you feel you have to do the education and you can afford it, do that. I would rather personally start off in the industry without that debt. And at the end of the day, when you're looking at job opportunities, my experience is that people will look at your work ethic, your skill set first. And when in doubt, they will then start asking about, colleges and so forth. So, all right, let's see. Okay, so audio seems to be okay. Yes, we have Status Venom from India. Hey, Status, how are you? Yes, it does. Thank you so much. Cool. How do you get big job opportunities in big companies as a 3D animator? Well, I recently talked about this in a live stream. What is the appeal of working for a big company? Why do people want to work there? And what's the point of that? People tend to look at what the big companies have created, right? Pixar, DreamWorks, and so forth. And they have this sense, oh, I want to be part of that. Knowing the movies doesn't mean you know the company. And it can be very disappointing to work for a company like that. At the end of the day, if you become an animator, your primary goal is to be a good animator and to work in an environment where that skill is appreciated, okay? So I'm not sure what you mean by big job. If you mean big pay, then I would certainly not look for the big companies. For the simple reason that in the big company, you are one of 2,000 people, right? In a small company, you might be one of 10. If you're an animator in a company where there's only 10 people, then your role is much more important, okay? Let's see. Sebastian is saying, how much money are we talking about for an entry-level job in Middle Europe? Okay, so Middle Europe, you're referring to Eastern Europe? I think you said you're in Austria, right? So Austria is different than, for example, Hungary or Poland or so forth. I would say in entry-level job, you're looking at maybe something in the range of 2,200 euros before taxes, something like that. So it's not a lot, right? Let's see. My student loan is in total 3 years, 27K plus 11K, right? All right, that's a lot of money. And Ryan, I think I read that you're in the UK. So are you talking about British pounds or are you talking about euros? I mean, that's 38K, right? So if that's pounds, that's almost something like 50K euro, yeah? Wow. Okay, so 50K euro. Now, let's say that you, for whatever reason, can pay $50 a month, right? Because, hey, you got low wages, high cost of living, whatever. You're looking at 1,000 months. Think about that. 1,000 months is crazy, right? How in the hell are you going to pay that back? So let's say you find a great job, you got a high pay. What the high pay will do is it will kind of lock you into that job. Your creative inspiration wants you to take the other job, right? But you have to go for the big paying job because you got a student loan, right? Yeah, that's tough. But, that's how the game works. So, yeah. Let's see. Yash is saying, what do companies care more about, the portfolio weight or the certificate degree? Well, I would say obviously the portfolio. The whole thing is a college degree or university degree or whatever. That's not about the piece of paper. It's about skills you obtain, knowledge you gain, and so forth. So that piece of paper is basically the proof that you went through that process and that you should have those skills, right? It doesn't guarantee that you do. A lot of people, complete their university degree and are not great 3D artists. And other people don't have any degree at all, and they are. So at the end of the day, your job is to produce content for the studio and so forth. If you can't do that, it doesn't matter how many degrees you have, right? Okay, so let's see. Somebody's saying that he meant the experience level that is needed to get a big job. Well, um, you're not going to get a big job with no experience, no chance at all. Could you get a job at a big studio with no experience? Yes, maybe an internship, something like that. And the whole game idea here is get your foot in the door, right? If you are able to find a spot in that company and you work hard and do your best, there's usually a good opportunity for you to climb the ranks, right? But if you think you're going to get a big job with a big paycheck where you have no experience, that's not going to happen. Absolutely not. See, Ryan is saying, yes, when they start paying back, when we earn a certain amount of salary, but with all the bills and expenses, life is a struggle. Yeah, I agree. What I've seen people do, though, is, and that's kind of a balancing act, it's spending a certain amount of time working as a 3D artist and spending a certain amount of time working in a high-paying 3D, not 3D, high-paying job. Now, where do you find a high-paying job if you've got no experience? Well, the reality is by doing a job that nobody else wants, right? Really strange things. But if you want to make a lot of money in a short time to make a dent in that student loan, there are companies out there, for example, they drive around in trucks and they pick up roadkill, right? Or they work in, I don't know, in a cattle processing plant where they clean up guts and whatever. Now, nobody wants to do that because it's smelly, it's dirty, it's whatever. However, the pay is big. Working in the services industry, like a waiter, for example, in certain areas, you can make a lot of money doing that, right? So you would make 2, 3, or 4 times more than a 3D artist. But if you spend, let's say, your evenings or your weekends doing stuff like that, you will be able to pay back your student loan way, way faster. Now, there's one other thing you need to remember. Start by getting experience in the industry. I would advise you to start working for a small company rather than a big one. Why? In a small company, you will get a lot more experience in a much shorter time because they can't afford to have you sit on the sideline. You will be involved in everything, right? So your learning curve is huge. Yeah. Okay. Now, once your learning curve is huge, you now have more potential to get a job at a bigger company. And what the trick is here is to negotiate as part of your salary package that they cover a part of your student loan. What I actually did is after having, I think, 8 years experience or whatever, and I was still paying off student loans, I had an interview where I said, listen, I will sign the contract, but I want you to cover the complete remainder of my student loan, right? And they said, sure, we'll do that, but you need to co-sign that you will stay here for at least 3 years. So I did that. They paid off my student loan, and I got rid of my student loan way faster than I could if I was paying it myself. So just a tip for you guys, yeah? Let's see. Yeah, okay. What kind of job 3D generalists do? They basically do a little bit of everything. That's why they're called 3D generalists. So depending on the company, it can be modeling, texturing, a little bit of rigging, and so forth. At my place, most of the people are someone that takes courses rather than uni. They have practice with the lesson they learn and create a list of portfolio. Okay, so Neville, let me tell you this. This is a discussion that I have all the time as well. What people tend to do in the 3D industry is they tend to look at other people. Okay, so they'll say, hey, I'm never going to make it because they're way better than I am, and blah, 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 right? But the thing is this. You get paid for what you do. You don't get paid for other people being better or less good than you, right? So there's no point at all looking at what other people are doing. You're only competing with you. So you had a certain skill set last year. Your skill set this year should be better, right? Where you get that information from, where you got the skill from, I don't care, as long as you are improving, right? And that skill that's improving and that knowledge that's improving, that is your future. And that's what you need to focus on, okay? Okay. So Yasheng, what key points as a mentor would I expect to see in a portfolio? Okay. Well, think of it this way. A portfolio is basically a resume. It is a message you're sending to the industry saying, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is what I want. Okay. These three things dictate what should be in your portfolio. If you make a portfolio because you want to hang out with your friends and show them what you made last week, that's a whole different story. If you want to work for a studio, let's say, or for whatever, your portfolio should reflect that. So you need to show that you have your own unique style and you're creative, so you can add something to the mix. That's one. You need to adopt an existing style, like, for example, a Disney style or Tim Burton style, but not copy it, but take that style into your own work. So you can show them, hey, if you have a certain mindset about style, I can follow along with you, making you more flexible. That's two. Three, show your technical skill set. Show your clean mesh. Show your topology. Show your UV maps. Show your texture maps. They want to understand how you work. Mention what software skills you have. Mention how long it took to do this. All of this creates a story, and that story is who you are, what you want, and why they should hire you. Okay? Hope that makes sense. Let's see. Where are we at? Okay. Good advice. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Hey, Mike. I'm a university student. I want to start an animation-based podcast. Would you do the honors and be a guest? Of course. Absolutely. I'd be honored. Yeah. Drop me an email, mikehermes@mhtutorials.com. I'd be happy to do that. Thank you for sharing your information with us. Really helpful. That's totally okay, Nicole. Thank you. Let's see. We can do freelance work on Maya student version. No, you cannot, because a Maya student version is a non-commercial license. You are not allowed to create stuff for making money. That said, I don't know if you are aware that the price of Maya dropped dramatically, right? Up until about a year ago, it was something in the range of $380 a month, right? Which is very expensive. They changed the whole thing related to student licenses and everybody was freaking out and whatever. However, there is now a Maya Indie license, as in independent artist license. And this is a full working Maya version. And for 1 full year, and you can use it commercially any way you want, for 1 full year, the price is something like less than $400 for a full year, right? So dramatic drop in price. So that shouldn't be an issue anymore, okay? Should junior artists aim to be a specialist or a generalist on their first job? On the first job, aim to be a generalist. Nobody will hire you as a specialist if it's your first job, because you can't be a specialist. That's impossible. Yeah. Over time, I would definitely consider it because you will be more flexible. Hector Cruz. Good morning, Mike. I understand that portfolio matters more than paper degree, but I often see requirements for a master degree or for medical animation positions. Okay, well, the reason why they do that is, especially, and I do a lot of medical simulations and scientific simulations, right? The reason why they do that is they want people to have a certain level of thinking, a certain mindset, because if you're working on medical animations, you're talking to people in the medical community. They need to explain to you what they want, and you need to have the intellectual ability to understand what they're saying and translate that into an animation, right? So their guess is, if we take somebody with a degree, chances are higher that they have that conceptual level of understanding. The way to counteract that is to present yourself in a way that comes across as very intelligent. How do you do that? By mentioning in your portfolio things you have done. Oh, I worked for this and this hospital on a medical situation simulation. I worked with these and these scientists on a collaborative whatever. You get the idea, yeah? So if you don't have one thing, demonstrate that skill set and knowledge in a different way and achieve the same thing, yeah? Ryan is saying, yeah, been a little bit unmotivated. Well, no problem at all. I'm really happy that you have some new energy to move forward. Okay. All right. So it seems that I catched up with all the questions and comments, looks like. So I'm going to grab a quick sip of coffee while you guys come up with some more questions, hopefully. Any comments, any questions, any remarks? Or are we all good and done for the day? I mean, hey, that's fine too. I mean, if you guys don't have any questions, that's okay. Let's see. Do companies have their own software? Yes, sometimes. Sip that coffee. Yeah. No, sometimes they do. Especially companies like Pixar. And what usually happens is they develop proprietary software because they need it for a project, and then in time they kind of make it more into a commercial thing, and then they sell it, right? And Pixar does it all the time. But I wouldn't worry about that, because if you start to work for a company like that, nobody will expect you to be able to work with that software because it is proprietary, right? Let's see. Can we give future tutorial questions? Sure. It's off topic for this session, unless you have tutorial questions about universities. But what I would ask you to do is send an email to Mike Hermes at mhtutorials.com, or just contact me through my website, mhtutorials.com, right? And then I'll get an email and I'll have a look, yeah? Bye, Sebastian. Have a good day. Let's see. The main thing I got from uni was meeting people in the industry and making connections. Yeah, that's a really important part. It's it's network. It's really important. Let's see. What advice do you have for a person like me who can't find a job since there are none here? Is my only option just to travel and or work remote? Okay. So Fire Noodle, first of all, it's really important for me to understand where you live. And as soon as you tell me that, I will answer your question. Yeah. Let's see, suggestions and not questions. Yeah, I understood that. I understood that you had tutorial suggestions, and that's fine. And you can just email them to me. Western Australia, alrighty. Okay, so Perth. Well, Perth is a pretty big city environment, if I'm correct. Yeah. The thing is this: when it comes to working as a 3D artist, there are basically three scenarios, right? One is you move to the work, right? Which is working on location. Two is the work moves to you, which could be working remote. Yeah. In your case, the third option would be to create your own work. Now, I need to explain that. Yeah. This is kind of a business thing. But keep in mind, we're still talking about 3D here. Yeah. Okay. So you probably heard of the term market share. Yeah. Let's say if we're talking about cell phones, Android has a market share and Apple has a market share and so forth. So kind of like piece of the pie, if you will. Now, if you're in an environment where there's no pie to share because there are no 3D jobs and you're not able to move and work is not coming to you, what are you going to do, right? What you do is you create demand. So you create a market yourself. Now, how do you do that? Well, First of all, I did a 10-part series on my channel where I talk about all this stuff. It's my freelance series. But what you basically do is you inform local businesses in your area what the upside is and what the value is of working with 3D models, because a lot of companies don't understand. And it's up to you to help them to understand. And that's how you find clients. I'll give you an example. Let's say there's a guy that makes wooden cabinets, right? And he lives in the village where I live, and he's making wooden cabinets and he sells them online. Yeah. Okay. So he makes a cabinet and he puts it online, and that takes a couple of days, whatever. And then somebody says, yeah, do you have the same cabinet in blue? So he makes another cabinet in blue, takes a photograph, puts it on the website, and so forth. So his stock position, the wood that he has to buy and the things he has to make, involves so much money in his warehouse because he wants to put this stuff all online. And you go and tell him, listen, if I make a 3D model of your cabinet, right, I can give you 50 colors, right, without you having to model anything, because you just make one cabinet and I'll make a model based on that. And, there you go. So you explain to him, you're saving money on inventory, you're saving money on stock, you're saving money on work, right? And you're much more flexible, you're much more faster. You offer him to do that, it saves him a huge amount of money, and in return, he pays you. So that's how you create clients. How you go about that, you walk into a company, you say, hey, is the owner around? And the owner says, yeah, what do you want? And you say, listen, I'm a 3D artist. I saw online that you guys make cabinets, or you make kitchens, or you make whatever, yeah? And I think I can add value to you guys. Do you have 5 minutes for me to explain how? That's basically how you do that. So FireNoodle, let me know if that makes sense to you and if that's something you could do. Let's see, can someone put his freelance projects in his own portfolio? Well, that depends whether you signed an NDA or not. An NDA is a non-disclosure agreement. So let's say you are commissioned by a client to model something. You sign an NDA saying that you will never show it to anyone, you will never tell anyone, and so forth, yeah? Then you cannot share it. If that is not the case and the client is okay with you sharing it as part of the work, right, then you could, right? Let's see. All right. Final. Okay. Understand. Another way to go about it. I might consider doing that. Thanks. Well, very welcome. I actually did a video on this. It's called How to Make Money as a 3D Artist. And it's also on my channel, right? And it talks about all the different things you can do. Okay. Right, guys. More questions. Coffee time. Oh, before I forget, guys. Upcoming Friday at 4 p.m. Central European time, so 4 p.m., I'm going to premiere a video that's 6.5 hours long. It's the complete registration of the ICE event that recently was held. And the ICE event is an event for 3D environment artists, prop artists, people that make landscapes, make interiors, exteriors, super cool stuff about new technology in used in theme parks made by 3D artists. So make sure you don't miss that, okay? All right, let's see what else. Let's see. My college doesn't pay much attention to our animation department, and we don't have good teachers. How do I still try and make good utility of time? And is there any scope of making it an opportunity? Yes, absolutely. Especially when it comes to animation. When you break down animation, and I don't know how many animators we have on the chat right now, but when you look at animation in general, and you look at the blocks that you need to learn to become an animator, software skills is, of course, a big part, right? What is keyframing? What is timing? What are the basic elements of animation? Ease in, ease out, all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of theoretical and skill, if you will, yeah. But 90% of the job of an animator is understanding human behavior. How does a person run? How does a person jump? What effect does weight have on a walk cycle? Why does a man walk different from a woman? This is life experience. And what you can do is analyze it, look at movies, look at commercials, look at real life people. Why is it that the proportions on a baby are different than on a grown man or on a teenager? Why is it that when women sit in a chair, they cross their legs where guys typically don't? All these things make you a better animator. Like I said, the actual process of keyframing and working with rigs, that's technical knowledge. That is, a year max, and you know how things work, yeah? But making it in the industry is all about understanding how that works, yeah? Let's see, Ryan, need to go, have some work to attend to. Unfortunately, can't stay, but it's been a pleasure seeing you and hearing your words of wisdom. Thank you so much. And for those of you who don't know, all the live streams now will stay online. So you can watch them anytime you want, right? They're not going to be closed afterwards. You can access them and look them back whenever, yeah? Okay. Let's see, I'm a 3D artist. Is it good time to travel to the US, Canada, anywhere which has more 3D work related companies? I'm in India, which is yet to get a lot of 3D production companies. Well, first of all, you can't travel to Canada and the US right now because there's still a travel ban going on because of COVID. Second, I would say that there is definitely a lot of 3D work in India, a lot of work, and more every day. Moving to get a job is extremely difficult because you need to get a work permit, which means that you need to have a company support you. And it's a process that could take years, right? So be very careful with that. Let's see, Indian gaming console. Well, thank you. Okay, guys, any more questions or comments or remarks about my hair or something, whatever? And actually, while you guys are here, I'm looking for a cool sniper game to play. So if you got any suggestions, let me know. Okay, so Josh is saying, how do I make the jump into the industry from a retail as someone who left university to find work? What do you mean by from a retail? So you left university to find work. So were you studying as a 3D artist? And when you left university to find work, I assume you're looking for work as a 3D artist, right? What do you mean by the word retail? By the word retail? Let's see, Sniper Elite, cool. Well, I'm looking for like a sniper game where it's more target practice and shooting at steel targets and stuff like that. Not necessarily blowing people's head off. That's not really my thing. Let's see. Do you still offer one-on-one mentorship? Theoretically, yes. I mean, I got a really full agenda. But that said, as you guys probably heard, I killed all monetization on everything I do, right? So I took down the Patreon page. I took down all the channel memberships. I turned off monetization on all my videos for the simple reason that I don't want YouTube to make one more penny off of me, right? Now, as a result, that means that my income literally dropped to pretty much zero, right, from an influencer standpoint. So yeah, would I do one-on-one mentorships? I would. Yeah, I certainly would. So if you're interested, send me an email, right? So mikehermes@mhtutorials.com. Let's see. I'm planning to move from 3ds Max to Blender. What is your suggestion? In a nutshell, don't. I mean, no, I'm kidding. I have nothing against Blender, but there's a huge hype going on about Blender, and Blender is free, which is cool. The industry, however, is not there yet at all. I mean, they're very much focused on Autodesk products, Maya, Max, to an extent, Cinema 4D and ZBrush. Are there smaller companies using Blender? Sure, but I would be careful with that. Yeah, my hairdo. Yeah, yeah. Let's see. AIM Labs. Devang Nagar. Have I worked with Pixar and Disney? I have. Hector, I understand. Okay, cool. George, could you please list which jobs in animation are harder or easier in your opinion? Would it be easier to start web design and app design using animation skills? The thing is this: if you accept a job just for the sake of having a job and you go into web design, before you know it, 10 years passed and you're a web design guy, right? So be very careful moving too far off of whatever is your dream, right? Now, I can tell you, though, that what is heavily sought after are animators that understand animating micro expressions. That is the big, big thing now. Now, if you don't know what that is, a lot of people focus on the superhero stuff, right? Making huge jumps and all that crazy big motions type stuff, yeah? What studios are looking for are animators that are capable of doing super, super small micro facial expressions, like an eyebrow going up, the corner of a mouth going up slightly, super, super small movements. This means that you need to be a really good observer, study human behavior, see that they're fiddling with their fingers while they're sitting in a chair, that kind of thing. And if you are good at that, you definitely will find a job in the movie industry. Yeah. Let's see. AIM Lab on Stream. Oh, cool. I'll check that out. Thank you. Let's see. Hector says, thanks. Thank you. YouTube can now put ad in any video. New policy. Yeah, I know. But at least they're not making money off of me. Well, they are, but let's see. I was studying game design and I started to work primarily in ZBrush, Maya, and Sussman Painter during that course. Yeah, good choice. I do the same. I've made Big Rock in Venice. Nearly, it was a huge help for me. I think I lost you there. Not sure what you're talking about. Sorry. Is it necessary to learn ZBrush after learning Maya? It's not necessary, but I would definitely advise you to do so. Whether you are working on organic stuff or not, I would still learn it. If you are, for example, working on props, you can use ZBrush to kind of add age to it, like dents and scratches and that kind of thing. If you're working on organics, like characters and, that kind of thing, then it's an absolute necessity. Let's see, freelance thoughts financially. So Siva, I did a 10-part video series on my channel. It's completely free. It will tell you everything you need to know about freelance, everything. The sales process, negotiation process, how to set up a contract, how to deal with clients, how to set up your work, how to calculate what you need to charge, everything, okay? Let's see, where are we at here? Okay, so it's a university. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Let's see. I think Blender is more like generalist, while others like Maya specialist. I don't necessarily agree. I mean, traditionally speaking, Autodesk Maya Lite or LT was created for game people. Autodesk Maya was more for movie people. Then 3ds Max was more for interiors, architectural kind of stuff, that kind of thing. ZBrush was more for characters and sculpting. That blended a lot. Blender was always a little bit of everything. And yeah, it's kind of a hate-love situation. I mean, if you can't afford any other software but Blender, hey, I understand. I mean, there's no problem with that. But Maya is now relatively so cheap compared to before. It's like a 90% price reduction or something, right? And I'm kind of biased, of course, because I love Maya and I've been working with Maya for years. Do I think private schools are good for learning 3D? I got one near, but the price is almost $20,000. Okay, very good question. Let me tell you this: when you go for a private school, right? Think about this for a minute. A private school, any school actually, but a private school is a business. A business needs to make money. That's a simple fact. So they need to make turnover. They need to have revenue. They need to have profit. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. The thing is this: in order for them to have that revenue, they need to have customers or clients willing to give them money. And that client is you. You are a student. You are paying them $20,000, right? So what they're going to do is they're going to make their window dressing, as in what they offer, what their product is, as gorgeous as possible because they want to sell as much seats as possible. Makes sense, right? The thing is, in the 3D industry, there are things that are cool to learn and there are things you have to learn. But what happens a lot, because you don't know the industry, is you only want to do the cool stuff. Yeah. So you pay $20,000, you go to a private school. After all is said and done, you graduate, you get a piece of paper, you now have a student loan, right? And you start to work somewhere and you have no idea what you're doing. And that is absolutely horrible. So a couple of things you can do. If you are looking at that school, make sure they have a proper accreditation, meaning that the government has given them a certificate that their curriculum is good, that they're giving you a solid education and so forth. Second, please look for people that have graduated there and now work in the industry and ask them, is it any good? Will it land me a job? And so forth. And then the third question is, can I get this experience without spending that $20K? Because you will have to pay it back later, right? Let me know if that helps. Alrighty. Will Photoscan and MetaHuman replace original artists? No, absolutely not. And I get this question all the time, and I always say it the same way. I'll give you a quick rundown why, right? What is the primary job of a 3D artist? The primary job of a 3D artist is to either tell or to help tell a story. If you're working for your own project, you're telling a story. If you're working for a movie studio, you're helping them tell a story. Game studio, same thing. Car commercial, same thing. Box of soap, same thing. Yeah. Your job is to help tell a story with whatever skill you have as a modeler, as a rigger, as a texturing artist, as a lighting artist. You contribute to that story, right? An automated process will never be able to tell a story, ever, right? You can automate the technical aspect of things, but the whole deal of contributing to the creative process and tell a story in a cool way that's relatable to humans, that's impossible to automate. You can't do that, right? So I'm not worried. How do I make the jump into the industry to become a character artist as someone who finished university but had to take a retail job due to pandemic? I mean, the retail job is basically just hitting the pause button for a while, right? And that kind of applies to everybody. So I wouldn't worry about that at all. And if you go on an interview and they say, hey, why have you been working in retail? You say, hey, pandemic, right? No problem there. You want to become a character artist. So you're saying that you aren't a character artist yet? Let me know. George is saying, thank you so much. I still don't have much confidence. Still a student in Arts University in animation, especially on rigging and moving characters. How can I gain more confidence on creating these two? Right. Well, the obvious thing is, of course, practice. But also, the tip that I can give you is this. try to take your personal feelings out of the equation. So if you animate something or rig something and you show it to people that you trust, and this is important, don't show it to people that are jealous because they're going to dump all over you. Show it to people that you can trust, like find a mentor, right? And tell them, listen, what do you really think? Be straight, be honest, and use that feedback without being insulted, without being, having your feelings hurt and that kind of thing. That is how you can improve those skills. Yeah. Now you're talking about the rigging and the moving. The rigging is a technical aspect, which is purely a technical skill set. Moving characters is observing people. That's how you figure out how people move. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. A little bit of coffee, guys. Okay, is the skin hair movements in Disney The Lion King 2019 part of micro animation? No, that's a simulation. That's not micro animation. It's purely, especially with humans, but also with human-like animal characters. It's kind of like observing people when there's minimal movement. Let's say somebody is sitting in the doctor's office waiting to be called in, right? They're just sitting there, you would think, but they're not. They're touching their nose, they're rubbing their ear, they're playing with their fingers, they're clicking a pen. These types of things make characters relatable to a viewing audience. That's the whole idea. If you're in the cinema looking at a movie and they got this dog on screen, they want you as a human to relate to that dog. And they can do that in two ways. Either the dog remembers you of your dog, or they give the dog human traits. So you recognize certain things, and that's funny because it's a dog. Yeah. Let's see. What are my thoughts about seniority in the work industry? Since I know a guy with poor modeling and leadership skills, but can lead a group of skilled modelers. Well, the thing is, managing a team is different than being part of a team because it's a whole different skill set. I've been a manager for over 25 years, and technically, you could have somebody manage a team of 3D artists that's not even a 3D artist. I wouldn't recommend it because I think that would be a poor decision, but it's possible. But the emphasis on that manager is the ability to oversee the process, to delegate authority, to manage left or right to get back on track. That's the primary role. That person doesn't have to be the best modeler or doesn't have to be the best artist as long as the leadership skills are good. Yeah. What can I say about using free software like Blender in studios? Some studios do, and I just did this whole thing about the software. Not sure why. Usually it's a financial decision, I would say. And yeah, it's not my preference. That's the only thing I can say. Do you think a training studio is a different direction than 3D, for example, media artists or something like that, and then learning 3D on your own at the same time? Okay, I'm not sure I'm understanding this. Do I think a training or a study in a different direction than 3D, like media artists or something like that, and then learning 3D on your own at the same time is a good way to get a job? If you want to get a job in the industry, I assume 3D industry, then I would say no, that's not a good idea. Why not? Because the learning curve for a 3D artist is huge. There's so much to learn. There's so many skills that you need to develop. And trying to be a 3D artist is kind of an afterthought. I mean, the industry is super competitive as it is already. You need to spend every breathing moment you have honing your 3D skills. So I would definitely not do that unless you want to have a little bit of 3D work on the side. But if that's going to be your primary job, then no. Let's see. Just want to say thanks. Your tutorials have been a big help to me throughout university, and I start my first job as a real-time artist on the 21st. Well, that's so cool. Congratulations, Peanut Pete. Love your name. And yeah, very cool matches there too. Okay, guys, we'll do another 4.5 minutes or so. I typically try to do these at a full hour. That's it. So yeah. Okay, so Arjun, tips on making a strong portfolio. Well, first of all, I have done several portfolio reviews on my channel, live video reviews, where I talk about what makes a strong portfolio. So I advise you to check that out. Second, in the beginning of this live chat, I talked a lot about portfolio and how to adjust that. This video will stay online and will stay up. It's not going to be closed as before. So you can look it back and address that, okay? That way I don't have to explain the whole thing again, okay? Hope that's fine. Okay, guys, what else? When am I going to go live next? I never know. They're usually not planned. They're usually spontaneous. I just have an hour on my hand and I decide to go live. And it's always cool because the interaction is always so spontaneous. So I couldn't say. Let's see. Currently studying animation SE in Cape Town, and I'm most likely going to go down the 3D animation path. Do I have any other graduation tips? Your videos have saved many of my projects. Thank you. I don't know what you mean. Oh, after graduation tips. Well, first of all, start building your business network while you are still in school, right? I've been in a lot of universities, and you have people from the industry that are in the university all the time, and they talk about things and whatever. Walk up to them, connect with them, share your information with them, ask them questions, ask them whether you can send them your work, ask them for your review, let them know, hey, can I call you at some point? Do you have job openings? Do you have internships? Build that network anywhere you can. And a lot of people will say, hey, that's annoying. No, it's not. Because every 3D artist, all of them, had to go through that same process. So if somebody walks up to me and asks me that question, I understand because I had to do the same thing once upon a time. Yeah. Let's see. Currently studying. Mini Zref saying, I was in class, so can anybody tell what I was talking about university? This video will stay online, so you can watch the whole thing after it's done. Yeah. Minimum practice hours to become a good 3D artist. Well, that's kind of an impossible question because there are people that practice 100 hours a week and they'll never be a good 3D artist. And there are people that, practice 2 hours a week and they're great artists. So the amount of practice doesn't make you a better 3D artist. It makes you a more skilled 3D artist. Is there a difference between the skilled artist and a good artist? Yes. A skilled artist knows things. A good artist can do things. That's different, right? If somebody's been driving a car for 50 years, it doesn't make them a good driver, right? It just tells you that they did it a long time. That's what I'm trying to say. You are a really good teacher. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Just want to add to the conversation that I'm currently following a game environment artist education, and in 4 months, I've already learned so much that would have taken me years by myself. Well, yes, and that's one of the advantages of going to college. It is super, super condensed, right? So again, if you can afford it, time-wise and financially, and I mean, you will have an advantage if your work is up to par, obviously, yeah? Let's see. Could you please tell us how you started your career in animation? At what age? If you had other jobs prior to animation, what was the hardest part when finding someone to hire you? Also, networking is easy in a school. My tip would be to choose an education that fits your life. All right. So yeah, what I'll do is I'll give you guys kind of a quick summary of basically what I've done. Yeah. And then, we'll go from there, okay? So, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I originally grew up in Canada, but in my teens moved to the Netherlands. So that's where I live right now. Yeah. When I started out, there was no 3D industry because it didn't exist yet. There was no internet. There were no computers. None of that existed. Yeah. And I, starting at a very young age, was always drawing comics, that kind of stuff. Suddenly, when I had to choose a school path, I was going through all the brochures, and I read about a school where they had computers. And I heard about computers because this, again, was a completely new thing. And I'm talking early 1980s, so 1983. And they had computers, and I was fascinated because I had built computers myself. I wrote code myself. So I wanted to go to that school, and that school had nothing to do with 3D at all. It was about mechanical engineering. So I went to that school mainly because they had computers. And for the first time in my life, I could write software, write codes, write games myself to kind of visualize my art in a different way than just on paper, right? Now, fast forward to 1995. In 1995, Toy Story 1 was released, and I heard about John Lasseter, and I heard about him working together with George Lucas on the Star Wars movie, and I said, that's what I want to do, right? Computers, 3D animation, and I kind of transitioned over time doing all sorts of jobs in between. I worked as a manager, I worked as a business consultant, I worked as an independent business consultant. I, at some point, had a team of 400 people, worked in over 47 countries, traveled the world and all that, right? I got fed up with that. I decided I wanted to be my own boss. So I started a consultancy company, and I started to focus specifically on 3D clients, people that want to transition to 3D workflow, movie studios or production companies or toy companies making models and whatnot. And I started working as a consultant for these companies. I also started working as a freelance 3D artist. And then I decided, hey, I'm going to start a YouTube channel to give back to the community for those that have no way to get that information otherwise, which was the situation that I was in when I started. Okay. Long story, but that's my story. Yeah. Okay. Let's do maybe one or two more questions, guys, and then we'll call it a day. Because I got a meeting that I have to get into. Gustavo, hey buddy, how are you? Let's see. I'm currently a college student, but I hate how they teach us so much general education and barely any 3D in comparison. I always find myself learning way more from YouTube videos. Thanks to you. Well, I appreciate that for sure. Cool. Game design. Nice. Well, thank you too. Yeah, guys. I mean, I don't know if I ever mentioned this, but it's very much true. I have a YouTube channel and I make videos 100% for you guys, right? The whole idea is, like I said, when I started out in the industry, nobody ever heard of 3D, had no idea what it was. Everybody thought it was complete nonsense, right? And I had to fight with all the naysayers. I also had to work extremely hard to find any information at all because nobody was doing this whatsoever. And I can imagine if in the current age you are if in the current age you don't have access to a lot of money, you don't have access to a super fast computer, you don't have the network, but you want to be a 3D artist, why wouldn't I help, right? So that's why I make my videos. Make sense? Let's see, George, thank you very much for answers. You're such a great mentor to me, and I'm learning more from your videos than from university. That's super cool. Thank you so much, George. Okay, guys, well, that's it for me today. Like I said, we're an hour in. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video. That would be really cool. Let me know in the comments if you got any additional questions. And yeah, that's it. I'm going to prep for my meeting in 30 minutes, get another cup of coffee, Hope you guys are doing great. Please stay healthy, stay safe, and stay creative. Okay. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys next time. Bye.